Hey guys, yeah, so I wanted to share just an experience I had this morning. So a group of our ladies got together. We were praying, and as we were praying, I was reminded of David and Goliath, and how David went to Goliath, and David went to him with the notion and with the saying that he had a covenant with God, which means a promise from God and a relationship based on a promise with God that God was going to give him victory over Goliath. So now we know, or let me rather say, in modern day and age, that Goliath represents strongholds, and stuff that we go through in life and how we can overcome it because we have a relationship with God. And as I was looking for this portion in my Bible to read, I came across 1 Samuel 5. And what I distinctly heard in my heart was stay in the presence of God. And 1 Samuel 5 is where, the Ark of the Covenant was this holy box with gold and some other stuff, which I'm not going to talk about now, um, which was held inside the temple where the Israelites came together to worship God, and only the priest went in. But this ark was stuff that God told them to put in there, and it was kept in the holiest part of the temple where nobody could really go in except the high priest. And that ark represents God's presence to us. And in this section in the Bible, 1 Samuel 5, it's about where the Philistines, Goliath's giant people, they took this from the Israelites. They defeated them and they took it from them. And for the Israelites, it was very bad that they didn't have it, because it was God's presence that was going with them. And all of a sudden they didn't have it. They were completely defeated. And again, in this portion, I laughed this morning. The Philistines had the ark, and then they had their false god. Excuse me. They had their false god, their idol, who they worship. And when they woke up the next morning, because they had stolen, or whatever, the ark from the Israelites, they found their God face down with his head on the ground, and they were, oh, okay. And they put him back. In the next morning, when they came, and the next morning, this same idol fell down, and part of his what was gone. Sorry, it's my dogs in the background. And they were like, oh, we don't want this ark anymore. They So the next day, they took it to the next town. So this town was called Ashdod. No, now they went to this next town, and they said to them, "No, you keep it," and that was Gath. Gath, Ashdod. I went to go look up what the name is. It means stronghold, and they took it to the next town and the city, and the city is called Gath, which means wine press, but it's also the city of the giants. And they took it to them, and they're like, no, you keep it. And then they're like, oh, okay, we'll keep it. And then they're like, no, 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 we can't keep it, because we're gonna die, and all these bad things are gonna happen. Because now they were scared, because they obviously heard what happened in Ashdod. And then they're like, no, give it to Akron, give it to that town. That city. And they gave it to them. And that town, Akron, is actually called elevation. It's extreme of the earth, and it's of heaven. And what was profound for me was, in all three of these towns, um, of which their names are called stronghold, or high thing, or lofty thing, they didn't want this. And I went to go ponder about why, and this came to me. They had the Ark of the Covenant, which represents the Holy Spirit, which represents the very presence of God. It was extremely holy, and uttermost, the most holiest. And they couldn't keep it with them because they represented strongholds, bad things, lies, you know, challenges, obstacles that we face. And I was reminded of when we stay in the presence of God, the Ark of the Covenant, all these lies and all the obstacles and the challenges and everything that the enemy throws at us cannot really stand. They cannot maintain us or hold us or oppress us because we stay in the presence of God. And the encouragement for me this morning was when I stay in God's presence and I go to the most holy place, like the place where I totally surrender every part about myself, and it's no longer about me, but it's about God, then whatever the enemy does to me through people or through challenges or finances that are not working out, any form of obstacle, when I stay in the presence of God, those things cannot defeat me. And as my husband reminded me this morning, I actually wrote it down. He said, the ark went through each of these towns and it couldn't stay there. It went through this town, and just like that, the presence of God takes us through the battles. We are not in a storm, we are not in a challenge, we are not under it, but we are over it. And it speaks of the fact that God has made us overcomers through Jesus. And the Bible clearly says that we have this hope as an anchor for our soul, which is secure and which is firm. This is Hebrews 6 verse 19. And it says, He entered in the inner sanctuary, which is where the Ark of the Covenant was held. This is Jesus. He went in where the presence of God was. And in that place, Jesus had perfect peace. Jesus had everything. Though he was also persecuted, he had everything because he stayed in his Father's presence. Even to this day, Jesus is sitting at the right hand of God in the holy place in heaven, at God's side, in God's presence, and in that presence he intercedes for us. He watches over the confessions we make, the affirmations we say of ourselves, of who God is for us. And in that place where we are seated in Jesus, we also have perfect peace, and we are also found, and we also have everything. But the key is to stay in God's presence. So, for us as the children of God, the utmost important thing in our life is to stay in God's presence. There is fullness of joy there. The Bible speaks of there's pleasures for us forevermore. And we are just reminded of the fact that we are not alone, that God is with us, He is for us, He is in us, but we have to stay in that place. So I heard one of our pastors say this weekend, we go through challenges. Yes, it's the enemy that's attacking us, but we also play a part in the difficult things that we go through. And how we get through those things is when we stay in the presence of God. So just an encouragement, for all of us this morning, if you are going through things, whatever you are going through, somewhere along the way, we are either going into a challenge, bearing in mind that we are not in it, we are over it as overcomers, or we're coming out of one. God's presence will be that which will be carrying us. Our part is to stay in His presence. We cannot expect God to move in our lives if we don't put Him first. We cannot expect God to move in our lives if we do not give Him preference. We don't put Him first. I just wanted to share that, in His presence is perfect peace. And I just want to read here, we are not in the battle. We are going through it, and we have overcome, so we are over it. So whatever you are facing today, draw near to God and He will draw near to you. And God promises He is faithful. He will carry us through it, but our part is to stay with Him. So God bless you and have an awesome day.